Hi YouTube, this is Joe Calton with Calton Cutlery. You can find us on the web, caltoncutlery.com. This is the third and hopefully the last video for at least a little while on the 440C introduction and testing. Oh, I forgot some nails. So, see, we left off the last video with edge damage, so the edge deformation test over the brass rod. I promised you I'd go ahead and show you how I do a cutting test. We'll just do like say 50 cuts or so, just so you can see kind of the range of what it is that I'm looking for when I do a cutting test. Then we'll go ahead and we'll either break the knives first and then use what's left of them to go ahead and hammer them through some nails. We'll probably do it that way. Anyway, so the tools I use to do an edge retention test are my favorite type of stone, DMT 325 grit. This one's just about worn out, so it's not very toothy. Length of this is 3/4 inch manila rope from Home Depot. You just cut a chunk of it off, and then this is one of the three pieces that make up that 3/4 inch rope. This is my second full roll of 150-foot rope. This roll isn't near as tough or as abrasive as the last roll that I got, so the numbers will be quite a bit higher when I go to do the testing. But anyway, so this is the one that I have the highest hopes for so far is the single quenched 440C from Admiral, 1/16 of an inch thick. It was held at 1900 degrees Fahrenheit in my kiln for 20 minutes and then quenched one time in 145 degree canola oil and then tempered at 300 degrees for 2 hours and then cooled down to room temperature and then tempered it for another 2 hours at 300 degrees. So far it's been doing the best, so we'll go ahead and do a quick cutting test on it. I did go ahead and sharpen it. As soon as I finish sharpening for this test, it's very important to make sure that you know that it is as sharp as you can get it, and that there's no burr, so make sure that it will take hair, you know, going both ways. That's a quick test for a burr. Anyway, so I'll zoom you in here. This is just a regular old bathroom scale, an analog. Never tried the digital type for this test. And we'll zoom you in. Okay, yep, you can see the scale. So we take the rope, we put the rope on the board, put the board and your hand and the rope all on the scale. Now this first cut will give you your starting point. Okay, it's also important to round the spines off as much as you can of these test blades. You'll still end up getting blisters after a while. I mean, see that big old pile of rope there? Yeah, that was from day before yesterday. And you'll see what 50 cuts worth of rope looks like here in a second. Okay, so the first cut you're doing, there's either two ways you can do it. You can, one, put your hand and everything on the scale, hold it comfortably where you're pretty sure that that rope isn't going to move, register what your scale says. In this case it says 5 pounds, and then without putting any more downward force on this hand, cut the rope and see what your starting force is, which is about 4 pounds if you do it that way. Or you can try to keep your hand, try not to put any weight on this hand, just basically hold the rope still and use the knife to trap the rope and then bring it back. And there you get about 6 pounds. Let's do it again where I'm not looking at the camera. Yep, so we got about 6 pounds or so there on the cut. So now what we'll do is we'll go ahead and There's 30. $40. And we'll test at 50 here. Usually I go 100, 200, sometimes 300, sometimes I'll go until I have a 10 pound change in the edge. So we were at about 6 pounds, now we're at about 7 or 8, somewhere around there. I like the manila rope because it's an awful lot coarser and it's harder on an edge than, say, sisal rope. If you have a blade that'll do 200 cuts in this type of manila rope, it'll do 1,000 cuts in sisal rope. Sisal rope just takes too dang much rope to dull an edge up. And then you can look and see, you know, how the edge dulled. You know, see if it'll still take hair, which this one just won't quite. Possibly. Yeah, it's taking a little bit, not bad. But anyway, so that's 50 cuts right there. We'll make a little bitty pile right there. So that's 50 cuts, and that's how much I've done in the last couple of days. So now, one of the exciting tests. Let's go ahead and set you up here. I put the shop towel in the background. Get you as square as we possibly can to the table. We'll have to move the vise out a little bit. That looks pretty square. That way I can go back and look at this video and see, you know, see what we had. And I'm going to use gloves this time because I've never done this particular test, so this is going to be fun for all of us. So we're going to go with the 15-minute single quench first. We'll have to see if that if it breaks, if it goes through that chip in the edge. Anyway, we pad the vise jaws with a little bit of leather, and we're going to go in we're going to want the edge of the vise jaws to be right about there or so. Right about like that. Let's drop this down some. Now this is going to be a little bit different type of test because a finish knife, it's going to have handle scales on it. So those handle scales will add stiffness to the, you know, this part of the handle usually doesn't bend when you're out working it. It's just from the front of the handle scales to the tip. So you'll have to take this test right here with that in mind. And like I said, I've never broke one of these 440C blades. You know, heck, we might get it 15 degrees and it might snap. Heck, it might go to 90. It might do something entirely in between. But this one here was the 15-minute single quench from Admiral, 16th inch stock. Roughly a 1/16 of an inch at the spine. This one is 31 thousandths, a quarter inch behind the edge, and probably around 10 to 12 thousandths or so at the shoulder of the edge. So let's grab a hold of it and see what happens. I'd say that was probably 45 or 50. And the grain doesn't look too bad at all. We'll go ahead, well, I'll show it to you right quick. Can't get the camera to focus. Yeah. There's the tip, so it broke off. It broke off about where the vice jaws were. The reason you pad these vice jaws is because if you don't, then the sharp edge of the jaws can dig into the steel and make it break sooner than what it would otherwise. This one's the same thing, Admiral's 1/16 inch stock, single quench at 20 minutes. We'll clamp it about in the same spot. And the grind is pretty similar. I think that one went a little bit farther. Grain looks nice and silky so far. I'll have to go back and look at it under with a loop. Yeah, not bad at all. Now the 15 minutes times twice, or 15 minutes twice. This one didn't cut as well as the other ones, but we'll see if it that second quench did anything for the strength. Grain looks good in that one. Okay, now this one was 3/32 inch stock. And it was air cooled. It was heated in the kiln for 30 minutes and then just pulled out and placed tip up in the vise and let it cool to room temperature. And it's also 3/32 inch stock, so it probably won't make, it won't bend as far before it breaks. Of course, it is much harder to bend. Yep, it didn't bend as far. Grain in that one still looks alright. Maybe a little bit coarser than the other ones. This one, now this one's exciting because this blade was edge quenched. Now 440C is supposed to be oil or air hardening. So you would think that the part that went into the oil would harden, and then the part that was outside of the oil would air harden, whereas the edge oil hardened, the spine would air harden. But you might get, I'm guessing that we'll have a little bit, that steel in between at the line of the oil quench between it and the air. Maybe it cooled off a little bit different. I don't know. Well, I'm not seeing anything in there. No difference between the edge and the spine. That's pretty interesting. How much time do we have left? We've got 9 minutes and 50 seconds. So let's try to cut some nails. Probably should do this on my anvil, but we'll just do it right here. Got a common nail there, and this is the single quench 15 minute. Find a spot of the edge that isn't jacked up there. Oh, you probably can't see that. There we go. Nope, chipped it out. I think a lot of that had to do with the fact I think it was going pretty good until I wasn't holding it steady. Oh, look at there. There's a chunk of the 440 in the nail. So that one chipped out. Of course, these are pretty thin edges. Usually for cutting nails, you'd want something a little bit stouter with a little bit better edge geometry. You know, something that looks a little bit more like a wedge. That way the edge itself, all it does is initiate the cut, and then the shoulders of the edge will actually split the nail apart. No, that one chipped. No, wait a minute. No, it's still in there. Nope, chipped out. Yeah, I think we can go a little bit softer on these. And I think we'll be just about at the right spot. And the double quenched. Yep, double quenched. It chipped out also. Well, we got 7 minutes left. Let's do another test. Now to do this one, let's do a twisting motion. Instead of bending it to the side, let's grab a hold of it with a wrench, and instead of bending it this way, we'll put some torsional force on it. Okay, that's fitting pretty tight. Okay, so there's an offset on the wrench, so wherever this handle ends up, we're going to be 30 degrees less than that. I'll have to go find that later. I'll catch the next one. So that one was the double quench. See how the 20-minute single quench does. Now I was thinking to start with that I would do a soft back draw. Just take a torch, an acetylene torch, and soften up the tang, and then run it across the spine just to give it a little bit of extra strength. I'll have to go back through the videos and see how far they made it, how many degrees, away from a flex that they made before they broke, to see if that's what I want to do. That's why I'm only breaking 3 of these. Wow. That was pretty impressive. And that grain just looks nice and silky in there. Yeah, it looks really good. Okay, let's make sure we keep all these tips kind of together with which blade they came from. Oh, there it is. And that one, the handle's over there, and we'll do the 15-minute one right quick, and I think that'll be it. Trying to hold that at the same time I'm putting force on it so it doesn't get lost while you can see it. That one looks pretty good too. Okay, so now I've got a good baseline. Now I've got a good baseline on what appears to be a good solid heat treat on a pretty good steel. So now we can go ahead and go back, make some more of them, fine tune them. Well, wait a minute, I've got to test the pieces here for stain resistance. I did leave one set of these knives that I did not break, so I'll go ahead and try drawing the spines and the tangs, and then do this flex testing again to see if that makes any difference, if I can get a differentially tempered blade instead of a differentially hardened blade, in case I want to build a knife that has the advantages of differentially heat treated knife, and go a little bit longer or hotter on the temper, and I think they'll be ready to roll after that. Anyway, hope you enjoyed it.